I'm another Australian, but I actually work here in the UK as Program Manager at Sense About Science. So I'm hoping to get all of you standing up for science like I am right now. I work for the charity Sense About Science, and we work with thousands of scientists and experts in their field, people like you, to equip people to make sense of science and evidence. So we work to put science and evidence in the hands of the public, respond to people's questions, and monitor public discussion in the media, literally looking at all of the science stories in the news every day. We get a huge variety of questions coming in from all sorts of people. In the wake of Fukushima, we had heaps of questions from people concerned about radiation. And so we set up a public Q&A with a nuclear physicist who ran this live Q&A on Mumsnet. Putting scientists in touch with public-facing groups is part of what we do to be responsive when science is misreported. And we work with lots of different public-facing organisations, including the journalists and media, but also patient groups and professional and learned societies, medical charities, to share the insights and questions that scientists use to understand evidence. And we support scientists in doing so, one way with the Voice of Young Science network. And the Voice program was set up when we asked early career researchers, why aren't you speaking out on issues that matter to society? And it's because they were scared of perhaps misrepresenting their institution, ruining their own career, or maybe they didn't have enough time or their supervisor wouldn't let them. And so we set up workshops that I run 4 times a year in the UK, and they also run in the US, where we address some of the concerns that early career researchers have. And the people who came along to these workshops have kept in touch and now form the Voice of Young Science network, which run myth-busting and evidence-hunting campaigns. And I'll tell you about one where they saw advertisements for a conference about homeopathy to treat serious diseases in Africa, including HIV, infant diarrhoea, tuberculosis and malaria. And the homeopathy was being promoted as being side effect free. The Voice members got in touch with Sense About Science because they were concerned that when it's hard enough for medics in these places to treat these serious diseases, the last thing that they need is promotion of non-evidence-based medicine getting in their way. There's no evidence that it'll work and it could cause more harm. So instead of grumbling about it, Voice members stood up for science, took responsibility and wrote to the World Health Organization about it. And eventually got a response from each of the directors of disease programs saying that they don't condone the use of homeopathy for the treatment of these diseases. And that was people like you, scientists with full-time jobs, who made a real difference just by putting in a little bit of effort. And it's part of many campaigns that Voice does, sometimes on lighter issues like detox and fad diets. And they all link up what the Voice of Young Science network does with Ask for Evidence, which is Sense About Science's public campaign to get everyone, and I hope all of you, to question the claims that you see every day. So Ask for Evidence helps people request for themselves the evidence behind claims that we hear from marketing, from policymakers, and in the media as well. And we hear these every day. On my way here just now and in the newspaper every day, there's stories about what's good for our health or bad for the environment, how to improve education and cut crime and treat disease. But if we want to believe these claims, we need to ask the organisations and people and individuals who are making them for the evidence behind them. And so we ask ourselves, how do we make companies and policymakers, commentators and official bodies accountable for the claims that they make? We all need to ask them for evidence. If they want us to vote for them and believe them and buy their products, then we have to ask them for evidence. And we've been doing it, and hundreds of other people have too, on claims from caffeine shampoo strengthening your hair by 50%, to claims by policymakers in the lead up to the election here next week. And we've seen it start to make a real difference. We've seen Vision Express, the specs manufacturer, change their training based on being asked. Planet Organic has taken down a leaflet that said that wheatgrass could help you quit smoking. And there's bigger changes as well, with politicians saying, just going back to scientific papers that they've read to help them support their claims. So I challenge all of you to stand up for science, take responsibility for the science that's out there, Join all of these people and ask for evidence today about any of the claims you might see. Thanks.